Oh, would you look at this? The Trump cheerleaders are making beautiful headlines again, groveling at China's feet like a bunch of desperate smucks, after begging them to come back to the table. Classic. Our fearless leader starts a fake as trade war. Nothing but stress for the economy. Traders are sweating like pigs in August, and you, the little guy, paying the price. Bravo. So, listen to this. The US and China finally made a deal after sitting around in Geneva, drinking overpriced coffee on the taxpayer's dime. The US decided to drop its crazy high tariffs on Chinese goods from 145% down to 30%. China cut theirs from 125% to 10%. And guess what? Because Trump cares about us so much, they even threw in a 90-day break from the trade war. How nice of them. So, what's this mean for you? Prices still ain't as low as before the trade war, and in 90 days, who knows? They might start the whole mess all over again. Another chance for insider trading to take place. Just saying. The de minimis tariff. What is it? The de minimis tariff applies to shipments under $800. It is now set at 54% for some deliveries from China and 30% for others. What it means for the US and the consumer. This change directly impacts US consumers who frequently purchase low-value items from Chinese e-commerce platforms. Before this change, these low-value shipments were duty-free, meaning consumers paid only the product cost and shipping. Now, many items will incur a significant tariff, leading to higher prices for these online purchases. For the US government, this change means collecting a tax/tariff from importers for items that were previously untaxed. The importer then passes the cost on to the customer. That would be you. Oh, get this. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, the big shot lead in the US negotiating team, comes out with his tail between his legs and says the consensus from both delegations is that neither side wanted a decoupling. What's that fancy talk mean for you? Basically, even though these two are squabbling like my Aunt Maria at a family dinner.
Well, it's about time you faced up to this mess.
Speaking of facing up to this mess, who messed up this face?
Fair Sanford, why is it every time I come over here you call me ugly?
'Cause I'm not the type to lie.
Nobody actually wants a divorce. The US and China ain't looking to completely split up their economies, thank God, 'cause that would've been a disaster. One that Trump created. For the US, this means supply chains ain't getting milked overnight. And for you, the consumer, it means you'll still get your cheap Chinese gadgets, and US companies can keep selling their stuff over there without getting totally screwed. Bottom line, Trump doesn't know how tariffs work. Nobody wants prices to go nuts or shelves to go empty. So for now, it's all just a big, dramatic, we're working on it. But the economic apocalypse looms. Chinese state media hailed the agreement as a vindication for Beijing's defiant posture. After all, they didn't start the trade war. Since then, China has forged strategic trade partnerships with other countries, thus limiting their reliance on the US. Now, China sees the US as a country that engages in bad faith negotiations. The consequences of which could mean that China may fundamentally alter its trade policies when dealing with the United States in the near future. And again, who do we have to blame for this? That's right, you guessed it, Mr. Taco Burrito Supreme himself. There was also somewhat of a deal made with the UK. America will keep its standard 10% global tariff, but they're cutting duties on British cars, steel, and aluminum. In return, the UK is letting in US beef and ethanol duty-free. Here is the kicker, though. The Brits normally turn up their noses at American beef. They think our farming standards are, how you say, questionable. They're all about that hormone-free, grass-fed beef over there. And honestly, mate, Who can blame them?
They hate our beef because our beef is beautiful and theirs is weak.
The United States gets most of its imported beef from countries like Canada, Brazil, and Mexico. Europe barely imports American beef at all, thanks to strict regulations around hormones and feed. A United States steer weighs around 1,400 pounds and is ready for slaughter in just 18 months thanks to hormone use. In Europe, cows take nearly twice as long, between 2 and 3 years, to reach a leaner 1,000 to 1,200 pounds without added hormones. Since 1989, the European Union has banned beef treated with growth hormones. No exceptions. American producers, however, rely on hormones like estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone to accelerate growth and maximize meat yield. Europe argues these additives could pose health risks, even if science hasn't definitively proven harm. The United States counters that the ban is really just protectionism, disguised as caution.
This is where I have to chime in. The US argument is mute. Because Europe requires the same standards from its own farmers. And Trump's Commerce Secretary,
Who's this? Who's he?
Howard Limpdick, doesn't know what he is talking about. So, what that means is, even with zero tariffs, US beef might still struggle to sell across the pond. British shoppers and stores might stick with their usual suppliers from Ireland or Argentina, rather than buy questionable American meat. But hey, if some price-conscious UK supermarkets or fast food chains want to save a buck, maybe they'll take a chance on our beef. For US ranchers, this deal could open doors, but don't pop the champagne yet. Sales might trickle in slowly unless American producers adapt to European standards. The door's open, but the Brits might not come rushing in. Especially with the wide-held ill sentiment towards Trump. Even after both deals, the overall US tariff rate remains extremely high at 18%. This is the highest since the 1930 Smoot-Hawley tariffs that are believed to have worsened the Great Depression before the Trump administration. The average US tariff rate was around 2.5% in 2017. This is a crucial takeaway. Despite the de-escalation with China, the US maintains a very high average tariff rate across all imports. Back in the good old days before the whole Trump tariff circus, we were paying peanuts for imports. Prices for many imported goods across the board were significantly lower when the average US tariff rate was around 2.5% for US businesses. This means continued higher costs on imported goods used in production or for resale, impacting their supply chains and potentially their competitiveness. For consumers, this effectively translates to continued higher prices on a wide array of imported products compared to pre-Trump levels, acting as a broad-based tax on consumers. While the most extreme tariff rates were walked back, the overall average tariff rate means prices are still generally higher than before the trade war began. Trump was handed a booming economy by Obama. Like it or not, the Wall Street Journal described both trade deals as major retreats by President Trump in his own trade war. Because that is what Trump does. No wonder they call him Taco. They said that the British deal was more show than substance, and the China deal more surrender than triumph. This perspective suggests that China and the rest of the world is onto his game. He basically got his arse handed to him and walked away worse off than he started. To me, and many others, it was nothing but a show, all bark and no bite. Something we learned about Trump based on his past endeavors. So, to sum it all up, Trump tried to bully China and the UK with a ridiculous tariff war, and they called his bluff. I guess he didn't have all the cards like he said.
Pop poker face, pop poker face, no.
At the end of the day, his tactics failed miserably. People lost money, jobs, help from food programs, help with medication, medical coverage, and much more, while he is playing games with their lives. The US economy experienced a negative GDP growth in the first quarter of 2025, shrinking by 0.3%. Prior to that, the last negative GDP growth occurred during the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. with a sharp contraction in the first 2 quarters. Before that, the recession that saw negative GDP growth lasted from 2007 to 2009. I don't know about MAGA, but I am tired of all this winning. Don't forget to like, comment, and follow for more content like this.